Hello, Montana. The running game Saturday going to be big. Going to be important, both places. Let's talk about it. And also, how about a couple of interviews for you, including Isaiah Ifanse of Montana State and the former head coach of Coastal Carolina and the current chairman of the board of TD Ameritrade, Joe Moglia. It is Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio and SWX Montana across the state. Outstanding to be with you wherever you are. We appreciate it. Thanks for letting us be on board with you. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula. Day after tomorrow, Saturday, 7th annual snow day. You got to get there in Missoula. Biggest sale of the entire year by far. The savings, well, you got to see them to believe them. And believe me, they are worth it. Go in there, check it out. Saturday, the snow day at Kurtz Polaris. If you would like to find us on the World Wide Web, you could do that, 1029ESPN.com. You go there. You can listen live on the Listen Live tab. It's called a stream, and it's available thanks to our friends at Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. You want to pick up your phone and call, you can do that too. 329-1899, 329-1899, the phone number, area code 406. That should cover, the whole state. Last I checked, 329-1899, all guests. Join us via the Rangich Brothers RV phone line. Let's take a look at what we got in the show today. We're going to hear from a couple of Montana football players here off the top, namely Dante Olson and Angel Villanueva, as they prepare for their first playoff game since 2015, the Grizzlies. They got a bye last week. They welcome in Southeastern Louisiana on Saturday, 1 o'clock kickoff there. So we will hear from a couple of players and talk about the game and also the quarterbacks. How about this? 2 FBS quarterbacks playing against each other in this game at the FCS level for these two teams. So we'll get into that and what that might mean. We will also talk about the news that filtered out a couple days ago now, but Bob Stitt, former Montana head coach, has been let go as the offensive coordinator at Texas State. So we'll jump into that a little bit. We also will hear from Isaiah Ifanse, the outstanding running back from Montana State, has been on the bench quite a bit this year due to health, had some injuries throughout really kind of the middle portion of the season, but has been back the last 2 weeks. Obviously had a huge game in the rivalry game 2 weeks ago, and so we'll talk to him as they get ready, Montana State, for Albany to come to town. Top of the next hour, we'll get into a few things. We'll continue talking about, again, the running game and how important that is, and maybe the state of Troy Anderson and his how he plays into this game, whether he's available or not against Albany on Saturday. And also, at about 5:20 or so, Joe Moglia is the former head coach, just stepped down as the head coach at Coastal Carolina at the beginning of the year. He's still an administrator there, still an executive to the president, essentially, and a counsel to the president of the University of Coastal Carolina. And he's also the former CEO, but still the chairman of the board of TD Ameritrade. Yes, that TD Ameritrade. What's it, $250 billion in asset type of investment firm. So a guy who's, got a thing or two to say, and he's going to share it with us. And also, obviously, why is he on now? He was the head coach of Coastal Carolina when the Chanticleers came to Missoula and beat the Grizzlies in a playoff game in what was, I think, -7 on -8 in the actual temperature, and -20 or more on the wind chill. And so, it's not going to be obviously nearly that cold this Saturday, but another warm weather team headed for Missoula this weekend. And so we'll talk about that with him and his memories of that game and how they were able to overcome that sort of mental and, frankly, physical barrier of the significant cold that was in Missoula that day. So there you go. That is our show outlook. It's brought to us by Shine Auto Detailing. Hey, stick around with me on Shine Auto Detailing, because today we're giving away, I shouldn't say we, they are giving away gift cards. Just straight giving you $50 there. You got to call them. I'll tell you when, but you get on stick with us here, and we're going to get you some hookups to Shine Auto Detailing, get your car cleaned and also protected. Coulter, hello.
What's up?
Interesting. Not much. I'm great, man. I'm pumped up. Christmas party tonight. A lot of people don't like their office Christmas parties. I love the office Christmas party.
We got to talk.
Okay.
We work at a place where I don't think anybody has a work persona where we work. Everybody's just themselves.
Yes.
Maybe there's one or two people that are a little bit different at home than they are at work. Not really. Especially because so much of us, the on-air people, like, kind of, we are what we do, and we do who we are, like, on the radio, and that's just, I mean, everybody that's listening to the show, this really is how we are. I mean,
sad, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
Disappointing.
Good, bad, or indifferent.
There's no way.
This really is
who they are.
This is really how we are.
Right.
I mean, this is really how Ryan and I talk all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That could be a great thing or a bad thing, depending on who's listening. But regardless, I think it's so funny when we go to these little things and everybody acts different. We hang out with these people like 250 days a year, and it's all good. And then it's like we have to act somehow different because like our wives and girlfriends are there.
Well,
or something.
So the plus one thing adds an element to it.
Does.
The fact that it's now explicitly a social circumstance as opposed to a work circumstance that sort of blends into the social.
True. We also do have a lot of meetings around here, so everybody knows what's going on. We're talking about radio all the time, so going to an establishment and then continuing to talk about radio might be.
Let me give everybody a piece of advice. This is radio advice, and it's also Christmas, work party. If you really want to, not have what can even be in the best situations some awkward moments. Come prepared. Write them down. 4 or 5 questions. Okay, very broad, general questions that you can use to instigate a conversation with somebody because the thing that is the odd thing is to sit here and go, well, how do I get in? And if you just go, do you like to travel? Oh, where have you been? Guess what? You could be off and running for an hour. Okay. Now, careful who you drop it on because you may not want to be in that conversation for an hour. So I understand that. And by the way, that maybe getting into it's easy, maybe getting out of it's hard. Bathroom run, phone call, all that stuff is valid. You can find, graceful ways to exit any given conversation. Okay. But if you want to have a good conversation and not be stuck in a spot, just be ready with a couple of ask somebody about themselves. Let me tell you, all you 30 and unders that are going to corporate and office parties, shut up about yourself. Okay? No one cares about you. Ask about the other person, for crying out loud. And then guess what? Probably you get to talk about yourself. Okay? So there you go. There's my 2 cents for December.
Who's the most famous person you've ever met?
It's a great one.
What's your greatest fear?
Right. No yes or no questions. Okay, who, what, when, where, how. That's what we're looking at.
We could teach a seminar.
Well, I think we are.
Office parties.
How
about the playoffs?
How about the playoffs? Let's get into that. By the way, I know David's really gonna hate it, but I think this is worth. I want to point this out just quick, then we'll get into the play. But speaking of where we work, the Trail 103.3, our sister station, great quality rock station. Do awesome stuff. And our good friend Mandela has a show, The Trail Less Traveled, which is a podcast, but it also airs a couple times a week on the Trail. If you haven't listened to it, you should listen to it. Remarkable where Mandela goes. She has traveled the whole earth. I mean, she's from South Africa. She lives in Missoula, sort of. She guides tours on the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon. She's been to Africa, the Amazon, I mean, everywhere. Okay? So, anyhow, great content. Unbelievable people that she goes and talks to and finds some of the world travelers and people doing stuff. Anyway, it's nice to get recognized for what she do because she's got this little, podcast that she started and it airs in Missoula, Montana, and so forth and so on. The Daily Telegraph, you heard of this? It is the largest publication in the UK. Okay? England, people, the biggest paper in the country, the Daily Telegraph, has selected the Trail Less Traveled as the best travel podcast of 2020. I mean, that is impressive right there. 1.7 million subscribers to the Daily Telegraph, and the Trail Less Traveled with Mandela is nominated or is selected as the best one. They're going to do a write-up. So congratulations to her on that. We're all very happy for her. She's a sweet gal, and we really like having her around when she's not out, gallivanting the planet. And so, anyway, if you haven't listened to it, you should. But a very nice recognition for her. So we're happy. Okay, now the playoff. The Montana Grizzlies hosting Southeastern Louisiana Saturday, 1 o'clock kickoff. Dalton Sneed tweeting out today, if you're a student and you're around, you're going to the game for free. How about that? So get in there. Go ahead. All right? And fill that thing up. Let's hear a little bit of sound, though. You went down to practice yesterday. You talked with, linebacker, defensive player of the year in the Big Sky Conference, Dante Olson, as well as a senior offensive lineman, Angel Villanueva. So let's hear a couple pieces of sound. These are Coulter's interviews, short interviews here. But Dante Olson first, obviously the senior linebacker, outstanding player, Buck Buchanan finalist for the Grizzlies.
First of all, here we are in December in your practices. So I know you guys have been working for this for a long time. What's it feel like getting ready for a playoff?
It's awesome. It's something that we've been working on as a whole team since, the season got over last year. And I know these seniors have been working hard for the 5 years that we've been here, and we're really excited to move forward and get another chance to play in Washington Grizz.
I just asked Angel this, but 2015, you guys were redshirting. You got to be in the crowd and see a playoff atmosphere and stuff like that. Did you ever imagine that this would be your first time actually playing in the playoffs, but then actually to break through and get here? That must be a pretty cool accomplishment for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, anytime to play in December is something special, and we have all worked hard for it, and we're looking forward to the opportunity.
Southeastern Louisiana, they got a lot of speed all over the place. First of all, start with number 1, Devontae Williams. He's a really explosive guy, so how important is keeping an eye on him? What sort of things does he bring to their offense?
He's a good running back. He's elusive. He's quick. He's got some speed to pull away. He's a good patient runner, and just got to read our key and go hit the guy with the ball. So,
what differences do you notice when they switch the quarterback?
They still run. They still run their offense and they do what they do. There's not a whole lot of differences. One of them is a lot bigger than the other. He's going to run the ball a little bit more downhill. So that's probably the main difference.
I know the regular season didn't end like you guys wanted to. How do you bounce back? How do you not let that get in the way of task at hand?
Just like we do every week. Put last week or I guess 2 weeks ago in the past, and we start fresh. It's a new week. Got to go 1-0, and that's the goal every week. So.
On a Wednesday here, how have you thought practice? I feel like the guys are sharp.
Yeah, I think it's good. Coming off the bye week is always good. Guys are fresh, ready to roll, and I think it's been pretty good and good competition.
This time of year, you literally play football every day. So even just having a couple days off, what does that feel like physically?
Right, it's awesome. It's Coach Haug knows what he's doing. He's been here before, so he knows what we need, and he's going to do what's best for us, and I think that I agree with him and what he did, and gave us a couple days off and looking forward. And, we're back out here running around feeling good. So
I know that about this team, this game, it's impossible to ignore the tradition. You walk down, see all the great players that play in the NFL. You walk down the tunnel, you see all the guys. This place is just steeped in tradition. So how does that play into your mindset as a player? And what's it mean to you to be a part of that?
It's so awesome to be part of Grizz Nation, Grizzly football, and everything that comes with it. The pride and tradition is rich here, like you said, and so many great teams and coaches and players in the past, and it's just an honor to be a part of it, and looking forward to kind of make a mark of our own and leave it for guys that come in the future. So,
linebacker for the Grizzlies, outstanding player, of course.
That, what he said right there, I think is the absolute key storyline for the game and has to be the key motivation.
To leave a legacy for
Thinking
the future
about
players.
Your legacy when you're crafting it, I think is foolish. But when this is it, this senior class, you can certainly give them praise for getting the program back going in the right direction, and that will be part of their legacy. But when you go 0-4 against the Cats, you don't have a Big Sky Conference championship ring, and you're making your first playoff appearance, if you were to lose your one and only playoff game of your career at home, it's just a bad way to stamp your career. Mm-hmm. And I really think that even just one playoff win would just be so huge for that group of guys and the program. Like, how crazy would it be if Dante Olson and Jerry Louis McGee graduate without ever winning a playoff? That's nuts.
It would be nuts, and a lot of people would have said, how crazy would it be if those guys graduated and never beat Montana State? And yet Absolutely. Here we are. So that said,
but I think you can extrapolate out the Montana State thing quite a bit in a lot of different areas. Whereas, like we talked about in the show the other day, Montana State or not, Montana State's a great team. It's one of the better programs in the conference. This is all about not being able to beat the other teams in the conference to even get into the playoffs. And you can blame Bob Stitt. You can talk about the system, a bad fit, whatever you want.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, Montana made the playoffs 17 years in a row. They made the playoffs 23 out of 25 years. These guys have never been to the playoffs. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a shocker, and they're there now, and expected to win this game. Certainly a favorite to win this game. I want to ask you about this, and we will hear from Angel Villanueva in just a moment. Tootell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Coming out of the Cat Grizz and that week, we were on the radio for those first 3 days, then it's Thanksgiving and everything. But I'm always talking in terms of feeling and sense of things and impressions is so sort of ethereal, and it's hard to, it's impossible to measure it, to quantify it, and I'm okay with that. I'm actually from the school that says I lend a lot of credence to the other stuff as much as I do to anything that you can sort of put a number to, okay? But it's also odd to sit here and go, well, here's how I feel about this thing. This is my sense of what's going on. That said, my sense coming out of the Montana State game was just, football sense, straight depression. I mean, just like despair, something like shock. And as Bobby Houck said in that post-game press conference, how are you going to get ready for that? It's going to be hard to do. How are you going to overcome? We can't. You don't. This Monday, though, after there's time to settle, you do the Thanksgiving thing, couple days away, come back, more or less the same question. How do you get out of through last week and get ready to play this week coming out of that game? You go back to work. I mean, there's no, oh, you know what we did? We brought in Carrot Top and had him do an act for the team, and now everybody's happy. You know what I mean? There's no answer to that way. What do? You go, well, we're still playing and we're going back to work. And that's what they did. And Dante Olson sort of basically said that same thing there to your question, to go in and go, okay, we're gonna keep working and grinding on this, and that's it. But I also, to sort of close it up with a sense of things, it's my impression that the optimism, I've sensed a lot more sort of excitement. And it's not doldrums, it's not glue. Because here's what I think. I think you can be overly serious about stuff. You know what I mean? You're just so dialed in, and you're like, okay, we're just going to go rebound and, whatever. I get the sense that there's guys that are excited to play football. And I think that's maybe the most important thing. You want to take it so serious. You want to take out your frustration on another team, whatever. But are you actually pumped up to be here? Do you actually want to be here? And my impression is that this is a team that really wants to be here, that's truly happy that they're in the postseason, that can't wait to play on Saturday. And a Montana team throughout the course of this season that has been unbridled and excited to be on the field has been a dominant football.
Absolutely. And I think that is a reflection of their captain as well. I mean, Jesse Sims is a very stoic guy, but Jesse Sims loves football.
No doubt.
Dalton Snead and Dante Olson, though, those guys, they have Dalton Snead's like a little kid. He has so much fun playing football. Loves it.
He's and I don't throw this around lightly, as you know, he's Favrean in his excitement and exuberance for the game. He is.
And I mean, Robbie Houck, think about how much fun that guy is. I think that's one thing that's sort of missing in Division
Dante doesn't love it, though. He doesn't enjoy being out there and roaring like a wildebeest. Is it a wildebeest? I don't know. Some sort of wolf. I don't know.
Regardless, I think that college sports is by and large overcomplicated, and I think that the fun element of it is somewhat lacking. I also think that the fun element of it is why Clemson is the defending national champions at the FBS level. And I do think that these guys, a lot of times when you have internal stuff going on, you're right. Sometimes you're ready to be done. I don't think that these guys are ready.
Totally.
I think that's a huge factor coming into this game. I'm so interested to see. Coach Houck has talked extensively the last several weeks. And I was at the coaches show last night, press box, when he was with Bradley Corcoran as well. He's talked so much about how banged up they are. And we know about sort of the headliner in Dalton Snead and Sammy Akem.
Sure.
But I think that there's a lot more that we don't know about or that are more serious, or I don't really know what's the deal is, because there's a lot of guys that are, I mean, we can identify who are the starters or whatever, and most of the headliner starters are still healthy, but I think that they're having some depth issues and stuff like that. But I mean, how does this team bounce back? I think that
well, even Angel Villanueva was down in the Cat game at a couple. He came back, but you know that's just a tough guy gritting it out.
Totally, and I think that the other point that's worth making is I think that we hear so often the cliche and the repeated line of prepare every game the same. Every game is the same. Every week is the same. The preparation is the same. I think that people have become numb to that way of thinking. But I can tell you this with absolute certainty. Under the last coaching staff, the preparation was not consistent. It was not. It was not consistent depending on the opponent. And that's why Montana was so up and down. It is consistent now. And I think that what happened with the Bobcat game is not that they didn't prepare hard. They just didn't prepare right. I think they really just had the wrong scout and the wrong scheme.
Bobby Houck said that very thing. I mean, he said, look, man, we sat here all week and spent a lot of time game planning for a guy who never took the field. You know? Okay. I mean, and again, maybe that's on, somebody's got to be responsible for what's going to happen here. I mean, we watched the UC Davis game. When he goes down in the first half of that game, I go, there's no way he's coming back into this football game. I mean, when a guy gets up and then collapses kind of back down to the field in pain, you go, this is a problem, and it's the shoulder, and we know that he's got a sling on it and the whole deal. Guess what? He comes back. Impressive. Then he gets his ankle rolled on. You go, oh, what? Like, again, of course, because that's what happens to Troy Anderson seemingly every single game. Is he going to come? He came back again and played. And you go, okay, well, of course he's going to be there for the Cat Grizz game, but also, I mean, it was significant that what he obviously dealt with, and nobody thought that he wouldn't play if you didn't know that, okay? But also, you have to believe that he's going to come out here and be what percent of himself we don't know, and there has to be other options, And anyway, I don't know. It went the way it went, and so you deal with it and you move on. Angel Villanueva, Coulter, another guy who probably made good use of the bye week in terms of his physical health, physical condition. You got a chance to talk to him. Here was that conversation again from yesterday after practice.
So the playoffs are back in Missoula, Montana. When you hear that, you think what?
Oh, exciting. I've heard being part of it, being able to witness it my freshman year, I've just been nothing but exciting. So I'm excited to be in this position. I'm so grateful and I'm so humbled by it, and looking to finish it off on the right note.
It's so interesting because it was just a kind of a way of life around here for so long, and you got to see it when you were a freshman. You were one of the only guys that did get to see it. What do you remember about that 2015 experience here?
How electric it was, just how practices were, just how everybody was excited to be playing in December. Going into December, it was an awesome thing, an awesome time. The community backs you up. Being in Washington Grizzly Stadium is just an amazing feeling. The atmosphere is like no other. So, like I said, I'm just excited to be here, man.
24th playoff appearance, all-time record. So being a part of something like that and getting to do that in your senior year, what's that feeling?
Oh, that's a special feeling, man. We've been working. Like I said, I've been working since my freshman year. That season ended. Get back to the position. So hard work's pay off. So now we got to go out there and we got to play the ball.
Southeastern Louisiana, they look like they got some speed on defense. What's the main things you see from them scheme-wise and athletic?
Well, they're just athletic. They're a good team. They play football, just like everybody else. They lined up 11 heads, and they give it their all. And so we got to go out there and we got to be ready on all phases. It's playoffs. Everybody's good in the playoffs. So I'm excited for it. I'm excited for the matchup, and I know they're going to come in here and give it all they got.
There you go. Angel Villanueva. Again, another guy. You just listen to him talk, man. He's pumped up about it. And this is a guy who has been in the postseason, right, Coulter? This is a guy who was on the team in 2015 when they were in the playoffs.
Right. He didn't play. He was redshirting that year. And that's one thing that I think
but was there, though.
Totally. And that's one thing the fifth-year seniors have, I think, as even extra motivation is the fact that they were in the student.
Right.
And they watched Montana beat South Dakota State in the first round of the playoff.
Yep.
So, I mean, they were – I think that when you're a young player and you're a redshirt and you're like, man, this is going to be us. We're going to do this. And then it doesn't happen. I think that's disappointing. I also think these guys deserve a lot of credit for getting Montana back, but I also think that it would be just such a lackluster and bitter ending if they weren't able to just get it done. I don't think this team needs to straight up go on a run all the way to Frisco to have a really positive legacy. I just think that a loss on Saturday would really hinder what could be just a one win in the playoffs. Okay, these guys, they deserve a ton of credit for getting it back, and they still do, but it would just be an extra feather in the cap rather than a really bitter black eye on their already tough sledding in the first group in a generation or more that's had tough sledding at Montana.
Yeah, I mean, to have the season that they had to be 9-2 and then lose in 2 losses in the 2 biggest games of the season would be very, very bitter indeed. And maybe that adds to the pressure of it, but maybe it adds to the motivation too. So we'll see. On Saturday, it's going to be a fun game. Tootell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, Bob Stitt, former head coach of the University of Montana, was the offensive coordinator at Texas State this past season, and he will be no longer in that capacity. So we'll talk about that, what happened there, and how did that go, and also the rumor mill, it's a swirling. So, far be it from us not to spin it a little bit more ourselves. All right, okay, very good. Hey, told you to stick with me on the Shine Auto Detailing because they're giving you something away, okay? Here's the deal. Here's a phone number for you. You ready? 207-3599. Okay, I'm going to give it to you again. And why am I going to give it to you again? Because Shine Auto Detailing is giving away free gift cards right now, to the first 3 people that call that number. $50, no strings attached, straight up. You are getting a $50 gift card for free. Call right now, 207-3599. You can also go online, Shine Auto Detailing, and click to call there if you'd like to. And the next 3 people that call right now, you get, listen, it's an awesome time of year to get your car detailed. You think I'm crazy? I'm not. Okay, you get that thing clean, first of all, but also get it coated so that when it gets dirty and all the chips and sand, in the spring you go through the wash again, it's perfect. It's like it's just been waxed, it's protected. And you're going to get a $50 gift card right now for free. You don't have to do anything other than call them and say, hey, give me my $50 gift card. Phone number again, 207-3599, 207-3599. Call right now. You get your $50 gift card. The first 3 callers to do it, get it right now. 207-3599.
Not all gift cards are created equal. The Montana Club gift card comes with more handcrafted breakfast, lunch, and dinner favorites than any other local card. Home-style breakfasts, perfectly grilled Angus steaks, piled high sandwiches, expertly mixed cocktails, local craft beers, and much, much more. This year, give Montana made. Buy in-store or at montanaclub.com. Give $100 in gift cards and get a $10 gift card free. It's easy. Happy holidays from everyone at your Montana Club.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Down Pump, ooh, pump it up.
Don't cook dinner. Stop by the Town Pump Deli and pick up a 2-piece chicken and Chochos with ranch for only $3.49. Want a great beer to go with it? Grab a 12-pack of Modelo for $11.99. Town Pump, right down the road.
Hey, it's Coulter, and I'm here with Catherine from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident or need help dealing with the insurance companies, you should give The Advocates a call. They can tell you if you have a case right over the phone.
That's right. It doesn't cost anything to call, and we'd be happy to talk to you and assess your situation. You don't want to have to deal with contacting the insurance companies and setting up a claim. We can do that for you. We take the hassle out of the process, so you can just focus on getting better.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give The Advocates a call. 406-640-4444 or online at MontanaAdvocates.com. You deserve The Advocates.
More than 60 years. R.J. Rangan opened up Rangan Brothers singing quality and those families continue to live through our family, staff, those who buy our whether you're traveling to Glacier, Yellowstone Geysers, or Hidden Gems, jump into Jayco and experience the best views. Only where a handshake means.
Hey there, Colter Nuanez from your favorite daily sports talk show, Tootell Nuanez. I'm here with Tom from Aspen Sound. Tom, last winter I got a sweet car starter. It's something I think everybody needs.
You know, Colter, I couldn't agree more, and my wife sure thinks so too. We've got a lot of sweet deals. We actually have it capable now where you can start it from your phone from anywhere you'd like. We have two-way remotes that'll confirm to you the vehicle started all the way down to our basic package starting at just $299 installed. Come on in and check us out.
Feel the music at Aspen Sound.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tootell, Colter Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. Former Montana head coach Bob Stitt is out at Texas State after one season as the offensive coordinator for the Bobcats. Stitt, who went 21-14 in 3 seasons as the head coach of the Grizz between 2015 and 2017, called plays for an offense that finished 121st in the FBS in scoring at Texas State. The Bobcats, in their first season under Jake Spavital, finished 3-9.
Jim McElwain, a Missoula native and former Eastern Washington quarterback, has been named the Mid-American Conference Coach of the Year. Missoula Sentinel alum engineered one of the biggest turnarounds in college football at Central Michigan. CMU posted an 8-4 record this season and will play Miami of Ohio on Saturday at Ford Field in Detroit. The Chippewas went from winning just one game a year ago to their first outright MAC West title since 2009 and their first league championship game appearance since that year. The Chippewas went from winning just one game a year ago to this great performance.
Missoula Hellgate junior Sage Brooks and Helena High sophomore Kylie Hartnett will run in the Nike Cross Country Nationals in Portland, Oregon Saturday. Brooks finished 5th at the Montana Class AA Cross Country State Championship earlier this season, while Hartnett won the individual state championship.
And finally, University of Montana men's basketball team returns home Friday with a non-conference matchup against North Dakota. UND left the Big Sky 2 years ago.
It's interesting because not many coaches have been not renewed, fired, call it what you will, due to performance, the University of Montana football team. But one recently obviously that's Bob Stitt, and now he is out once again after 1 year as the offensive coordinator at Texas State. It's Tootell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, and if you go there this Saturday, they're going to have free lunch for you. That's pretty great. They're going to have coffee, refreshments. They're also going to have the greatest sale of the entire year, 1 day only. Kurtz Polaris this Saturday, their 7th annual snow day. Colter, Bob Stitt was the head coach, as we said in the sports center there, for 3 years at the University of Montana. He went as 1 year as an analyst at Oklahoma State, and then got on with Jake Spavital, who was just named the new head coach at Texas State this past season. Was there for 1 year, and also Gresh Jensen, former Grizz quarterback, who then transferred out when Bob Stitt was not renewed. Went to a junior college, then transferred in to Texas State, but was not their starting quarterback this year, if I'm getting that correct.
True.
But he is one and done and will not be back at Texas State, according to footballscoop.com, and that's a very good, reliable source for that information. And maybe not that surprising, Texas State went 3-9. They finished 121st in total offense this year in the FBS.
121st in offense, 126th in touchdowns. As far as the Gresh Jensen update goes, he actually ended up playing a considerable amount. He threw for 1,291 yards, threw 206 passes, had more than 30 attempts in, count them up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different games. So he did get some playing time. Threw 5 touchdowns, 6 picks. So not an outstanding year for Gresh Jensen at Texas State. And Bob Stitt on the hunt. It's interesting because coordinators, I think even in low-level FBS like Texas State, I believe are on year-to-year contracts. There might be, the guys that are at the top in the SEC and the Big 12 and stuff like that, they might be on multiple-year contracts. But I think that low-level FBS is much like the FCS, where coordinators and assistants are on year-to-year contracts. And so the report was not that Bob Stitt had his contract terminated or that he was fired. The report was just that he will not return.
Yeah.
And so you wonder if it was a mutual agreement. Obviously, performance indicates that. 121. There's only 128 teams, so they were almost dead last in the country in scoring.
Yeah.
But also, there's some head coaching jobs, specifically in the Big Sky Conference, specifically Northern Colorado, that are open. Bob Stitt has been a head coach for 18 years of his 25, 26-year coaching career. So that's kind of the role that he is most used to. And also, the thing to know about Jake Spavital is that Jake Spavital is a offensive guy. I would not be surprised if Jake Spavital does not replace Bob Stitt. He just calls the plays himself. Jake Spavital has called plays for Kevin Sumlin and Dana Holgerson and a bunch of other spread, quote-unquote, gurus.
It's hard to be the drummer for the Foo Fighters, is what you're saying. When the guy singing the song's the best drummer there is. By the way, worth noting, though, too, on that, wide receivers coach Ron Antoine and tight ends coach Morris Berger also will not be returning to the staff. So, that's all three offensive coaches out of, how many that you might have, maybe five, that will not be coming back. And obviously the performance was what it was. It's sort of an interesting thing. And again, we don't know. Jake Spavital himself has not spoken to this that we're aware of yet. I don't know that there's been a press conference or that there would be where he will. Eventually you will need to address this as the head coach of what's happened and why and what you're going to do and so forth and so on. That hasn't happened yet. But, Montana, the University of Montana, Grizz fans, I think, have mixed but primarily disappointing feelings about Bob Stitt. And it's sort of an odd thing because I don't think anybody basically thinks that this guy is like a bad guy. There's not a lot of dislike for the person Bob Stitt, but there's a lot of what in the world was going on while he was the head coach at the University of Montana. And look, in retrospect, you can certainly fairly say it's a bad hire. He was not the right guy for the job at the University of Montana, and he shouldn't have been here in the first place in Missoula. Now he goes on and he has, he's an analyst for a year, gets on as an offensive coordinator at the FBS level, and perhaps there's personal reasons and other opportunities of why that he's not anymore, but also the performance wouldn't be the thing where you sit there and go, well, this is definitely somebody that you got to keep and bring back. And he got a lot of he was a good coach at Colorado School of Mines and was there for a long time. And there was new facilities under the decade and a half that he was the head coach there, and all of that. And then we all know about the Dana Holgerson thing and the Orange Bowl and the shout out and kind of putting him on a broader map from a name standpoint and everything like that. But I think there's still major questions about him as a coach, not from a football standpoint, but broadly in the room with the group, as a leader, as a speaker, all that stuff that seems like it's not really there.
And from a football standpoint.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so.
I don't know, man. I don't know how it happened, but I don't know how someone could be more overhyped. The offense is not innovative. It's a box count offense. They only run 2x2 with pre-snap motion. Congratulations. Everybody does it now. It's like Bobby Houck said, there's no, oh man, styles of conferences and these guys run the RPO. Right. Film is so easy to trade now. Everybody runs everything. Even teams that rush for 300 yards a game like Montana State still run RPO and run play action and quarterback waggle and all sorts of stuff. Everybody runs everything because you can. Is that good? Is it a good thing to run everything? Probably not. But Montana didn't really run anything. They ran 2x2 route trees, but they never really ran trips. Again, the fly sweep where Bob Stitt first got his massive jump of hype when West Virginia ran it a million times in the Orange Bowl and scored 50-plus points, and Dana Holgerson said, my good friend Bob Stitt taught me that play. Man, it's not that innovative of a play.
Here's the thing I'm trying to understand.
To finish this point, before you go. In the RMAC, which is not a good Division II league outside of Colorado State, Pueblo, it's way easier to run box count stuff because the level of preparation, the level of athlete, level of execution, all of it is it's just not that high. So just sitting there and saying, okay, we're going to count the box. Okay, you guys got 6 in the box, inside zone. You guys got 8 in the box, play action, hit you deep. The offense only worked on a really incredibly high level when Bob Stitt was the head coach at Montana. His very first game, because he had the element of surprise against North Dakota State, and then against the very worst teams that they played, Mississippi Valley State, a really struggling Sac State team. Other than that, very, very, very pedestrian. And anybody that knows football knows it was one of the most predictable offenses in the league, and that's why they played anybody that had good defense. They would get 450 yards and score 18 points.
Right.
Because everybody just knew, just keep it in front of you. Just have a guy that spies Jerry Lou McGee, tackle him in the backfield on the bubble screen, and go home with all your empty calories and having won by 2 scores.
Right. Right. Effective. Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. I think we're good. Let's get back into it here with Montana State. Isaiah Fonse has been out for several games. Most of the middle of this season, came back against UC Davis 3 weeks ago, and obviously was outstanding against Montana 2 weeks ago. And we had a chance to catch up with him, sophomore running back for the Montana State Bobcats, as they get ready for Albany on Saturday. We'll hear from him right after.
If you're looking for the perfect Christmas gift, think spicy. 'Tis the season for seasoning with gift packs from Alpine Touch. 4-spice pack includes 4 Big Mountain flavors for just $19.99. Go to alpinetouch.com right now for gifts sure to keep mouths watering year-round. And if you plug in the code ESPN at checkout, you'll get a free bag of Alpine Touch sunflower seeds. From gift packs to gift cards to the Grand Slam package, Alpine Touch makes the perfect gift for anyone on your list. Go to alpinetouch.com right now to order. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
Hi there. It's Les Schwab Tire. Well, more like Les Schwab alignment, brakes, shocks, wheels, and tires. Now, some tire places don't offer that. They only sell tires. And we're not sure how they sleep with it, because all those services affect things like steering and stopping. That's why we offer more tires to help keep you safe. Stop by or book an appointment at LesSchwab.com. Les Schwab Tire, doing the right thing. 1950.
On Russell, across from the fairground.
In western Montana, we know shopping local matters. And you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box store. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit 6, and online at SelwayArmory.com.
If you're looking for a charming neighborhood hideaway, come into Katie O'Keefe's. Located in the corner of the Stevens Center, Katie's has an inviting atmosphere with ample parking and a location that's easy to get to and hard not to love. With drink specials every night of the week, including Tequila Tuesdays and Whiskey Wednesdays, offering $3 premium cocktails. Katie O'Keefe's is the welcoming, warm hangout you've been looking for. Come in to Katie O'Keefe's, where the drinks are always cold and the people are always friendly.
Gifts from Florence Coffee Company are as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1, buy a $20 gift card and receive one $5 gift card free. 2, pick up a gift bag complete with mug, coffee, and a $10 gift card, all for only $25. 3, choose from a selection of winter travel mugs. 5% of all gift card sales go to the Montana Food Bank. Go to any Florence Coffee location or go to florencecoffeeco.com.
Hey there, Missoula. Mark Moss from Teleside, inviting you to join us for an evening of live storytelling at the Wilma, December 10th at 7 p.m. 8 storytellers take the stage to share their true personal stories from memory on the theme Tipping Point. We again welcome American Sign Language interpreters who will sign for our deaf friends in the Missoula community. Get your tickets now at the Top Hat Box Office, Rock and Rudy's, or Logjam Presents December 10th, 7 p.m. at the Wilma Tipping Point Story. Begin.
Isaiah Fonse, outstanding running back for Montana State. Had an opportunity to join him just a moment. Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris, 2904 West Broadway in Missoula. Go there this Saturday, their 7th annual snow day, one day only. This Saturday at Kurtz Polaris. Where are you at with Alien Ant Farm?
They're pretty good.
7? 7 out of 10? 6? Somewhere in there.
Maybe 8.
Yeah.
I give them a B.
Yeah.
I like it.
Alien Ant Farm's got a handful of songs beyond that song that are actually quite. Where are you at with Black Keys?
I thought they were awesome and innovative when they first came out, and they just haven't really diversified themselves since then. I still think they're good, but they sound so much the same.
You have recited back to me my own. I mean, 100%. They're. I will listen to Black Keys happily.
Yeah.
But you know exactly what you're going to get out of them, which ain't bad necessarily.
You know exactly who it is when it comes on the radio.
No doubt.
I give them a ton of credit for that. But
you know who's in Don't Mess with the Zohan?
For our off-air conversation, sure.
Dave Matthews.
I think I knew that. Dan Patrick's probably in.
One of the great cameos, especially if you know Dave Matthews and what he's about. One of the great cameos. Okay, very good. We do something productive.
We go now to the Rankage Brothers RV phone line, and we welcome in sophomore running back of Montana State, Isaiah Ifanse. And Isaiah, thanks so much for being on with us. We appreciate it. You guys have had an outstanding season. You're obviously hosting a playoff game this weekend. I know you're getting ready for it, but you have had some, gone through some injuries and stuff throughout the season. How great did it feel to get back against UC Davis and then obviously have the huge game going over 170 yards against Montana in a beatdown in that game?
It's just great to be back with my brothers out on the field and contributing to our offense, helping them in any way.
In the Grizz game, what was going well? I mean, the offensive line it seems like they were just mashing. You guys had wide open holes. What were you seeing out
there? It was just clear lanes. I got to give credit to my own line. They did a tremendous job that game, opening holes for all the running backs.
Was it difficult having been out to kind of get back and get into a flow? I know you played against UC Davis. I think you had 10 carries in that game. So was that like a nice kind of way to get back into it and kind of feel what it's like to be back live playing football again?
Yeah, it was great going back to Davis. Just like kind of getting my feet wet, playing some snaps here and there. But now I'm like ready. I'm ready for the playoff football.
The all-league stuff came out when we put together our all-league list for Carolina Sports. I thought that Mitch Brott, Taylor Tuiasosopo, Lewis Kidd all deserve either first or second team honors. To me, those guys are all three of the best 10 offensive linemen in the league, no question. How would you evaluate just the way that those guys have played and developed, and how have you seen them improve and grow in your 2 years?
They continue to improve and develop, and like one thing that I've noticed this year, the biggest leap would be like the leadership role of like Dewey and Lewis Kidd. Mitch is a dog. He's been like that since I first came here. So with Dewey and Lewis, they're just great motivators. They never quit. And when you see your own line working hard, then that just makes you want to work harder for them.
When you break it down, the film from that Montana game, I'm sure you guys probably didn't watch much since it was such a great victory and you guys are getting ready for the playoffs. But I watched the game back a couple of times, and man, I mean, Mitch Brott just dominated Montana's linebackers. He had Dante Olson on his back multiple times. What were some of your favorite parts of watching that game back, and what are some of your favorite things you saw Mitch Brott do in that game?
My favorite thing was when we had the two-back set with me and Logan Jones, and then Mitch Brott just manhandled somebody on an outside zone play, and then Logan threw for the first touchdown, the second touchdown of that game. That was probably my favorite play.
Isaiah Ifanse joining us. He's a sophomore running back at Montana State. They host Albany this Saturday in the second round of the FCS playoffs. The first game for Montana State as they got a bye in the first round. And Isaiah, when you came to Montana State from Bellevue, you had multiple offers at different places. You're the Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Washington. What did you think it was going to be like playing at Montana State? And obviously for Jeff Code, who is a guy who loves to run the football.
I thought it was going to be great, and I was right about that. It is great playing for Montana State. But like with Coach Choate, when I came on my official, it was just nothing but good things I heard about him and the team, and it was like a close bonded team. So I knew right away that that's what I wanted to play for.
Coming in as a freshman for anybody to college, whether you play sports or not, it's an adjustment for sure. But then when you have to be the workhorse running back and you got this heavy load, and then you combine that with school and college classes are harder. For you, what was the biggest adjustment for your freshman?
I think the biggest adjustment was getting used to the speed of the game and also making up work in classes for when we're on the road.
Well, I think you got used to the speed of the game pretty quickly, Isaiah, from what I could tell. Looks pretty good out there, my man. Hey, let's talk about this week. You guys, you go to the postseason last year, a step forward for the team. You get the win at home, but then, of course, you got to go on the road and play at NDSU, which we all know what that's like. So this year, you guys get the 5 seed. You get a bye. You can maybe continue to get healed up and all that kind of stuff, and now you welcome in Albany. Before we get into this particular game, just what do you think the state of the program is as it's progressed here in your time at MSU?
The state of the program?
Yeah, like what do you think about where Montana State football is right now as an entity, now as a 5 seed in the postseason? I mean, that's a big step in the right direction where you guys are trying to get to, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, we have, like, bigger expectations for ourselves. We just have, like, a higher standards raised now. Now that we proved that we're a great team in FCS.
You know, Albany comes into Bozeman Saturday afternoon, and it's a team that, you know, just got their first ever playoff win last week, and maybe a lot of people don't know a ton about what their, you know, program is or what they're about, but as we've looked at them and seen, they're a pretty good football team. As you guys have started to break down film and get ready for Albany, I mean, it's a playoff game, you're going to be up for it, but how do you make sure to, you know, give your opponent their due respect, even if they're a team that maybe doesn't have the history that, you know, some of the teams in the Big Sky Conference do?
I think that Albany's a great team. They have number 12, their defensive end. He's a really good player. Then they have their DB, number 23, the safety. He's really good. Their linebacker core is solid too. So I think all around on defense, they're a pretty good defense. It would be a great matchup for our offense.
Talked to Lewis Kidd yesterday. He was talking about all the stemming and all the post-snap movement, as Coach Joe would call it, that they do. You kind of jump in gaps and really living on tackles for loss. How do you think you guys match up just with the way that you guys block up the run game, and how do you hope to exploit them?
I think we match up well against all that stuff. I mean, we've been watching a bunch of film on them and seeing what they do, so we kind of have a feel for, like, where players are going to hit. Obviously, you're not going to know, not like until you get into the game where it's actually going to hit. But I think overall, it's a great matchup.
And playing a playoff game at Bobcat Stadium in December, probably going to be a wintry day. I know it's actually probably supposed to be warmer than it usually is this time of year, but just being at home and getting the chance to play in the round of 16 at Bobcat Stadium, what's that experience going to be like?
It's awesome. It's a huge step for us. I mean, last year we played Garnet Word in the playoffs. It was crazy. So I'm expecting the same, if not more, from when we play Albany this week.
Isaiah, you got to do us a favor. I want you to go into the offensive meeting, talk to Matt Miller, and say that you need to be throwing one pass in this game. Okay, we got to get everybody involved in every aspect. You know what I mean? So I want to see you throwing the football to somebody this weekend. Okay.
I'll see what I can do.
Okay. Hey, man, congratulations. Really happy that you're back. Great player. We love watching you play. Best of luck this Saturday against Albany. We're looking forward to it, and congratulations already on a great year. Keep it going, all right?
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
You bet. Thanks for being with us. There you go. Isaiah Ifanse, outstanding sophomore running back for Montana State. Man, tell you what, I mean, they've kind of ebbed and flowed a little bit on offense, but just, I mean, he's such a monster. Like, Logan Jones has been great in relief. They've had a couple other kids who've come in and had big games, but Isaiah Ifanse is just at a different level from every other guy in the backfield, save of course, Troy Anderson.
I mean, he's a dog, man. He's awesome. He's so awesome. Fun to watch. One of the fun parts about having David, our new producer, in the back is that he loves sports and loves college football specifically, but he doesn't really have any previous knowledge, so he has no previous bias or disposition to this stuff. So sometimes when we're like getting these guests and stuff, he looks at the guy. And the other day, we were sitting in the studio right before we called Isaiah, and he says, well, how did Montana State get this guy? Because he's a Gatorade Player of the Year in Washington. Yeah. I mean, he rushed for 2,600-plus yards, 30-plus touchdowns.
At Bellevue.
Yeah, so it's not like it's Ellensburg or Camas or something like that. I mean, this is a big I mean, Bellevue's 3A, but the 3A in the Seattle area, we know. I mean, there's a lot of the 3A schools in the metro area.
It is one of the football programs in the state of Washington. It absolutely is. So, I mean, regardless of its classification within the larger scope.
And I always wondered. I mean, and you mentioned he's short, okay, but a lot of running.
Yeah, I mean, he actually is bigger than I thought. I mean, he's listed at 202, I think. I thought he was maybe in the 190, 195 range. If he's really 2 bills, that's pretty good. Okay, so we're told.
Apparently, Tommy wants 30 seconds.
Okay.
The late, great Tommy Evans. Come on, let's go.
What? Hello, Tommy. What's going on, man?
David can know all the sports he wants, but he's not going to go running around winning PS4s and increasing your ratings based on the story. All right, so I just need to boost my own ego and remind you where you came from.
Tommy, if you got to understand that if it was up to us, you'd be on the third mic for 2 hours a day.
Yes, you would.
It's up to me. It's in my best interest to keep as far away from you people as possible. It's a great show, nevertheless.
No, it's going to be a great holiday party when Tommy called in to say he has to stay away as far away from us as he possibly can, and taking not so veiled shots at David. I mean, listen to this. He's undercutting the very guy who's back there actually making it happen now. Tommy, you go on your PS4 Coin Dozer World Tour, and we'll meet up with you later tonight. We'll see who's doing better, okay?
And, Tommy, you can come on the show at any time. Anytime.
I will never come on to this show. Believe me.
You just did. You just begged your way onto it. Get out of here.
Hour number one.
David was about to go through his 90-day review, and he let me on, and now we've got to have a talk about it.
I know. We need a little better filter system back there. Jake, clink. Is he actually calling on like a pick it up phone? Did he just slam like a rotary phone?
We got David. Tommy's out.
I mean,
34, 330.
Either he hung up an actual pick it up, push the button phone, or he threw his cell phone out of a moving vehicle. Like one of those two things just happened.
Maybe he headbutted the microphone.
Hour one in the books. Running game, Montana State, important. How important is it then to have Troy Anderson back? We will discuss hour number 2 next.
Not all gift cards are created equal. The Montana Club gift card comes with more handcrafted breakfast, lunch, and dinner favorites than any other local card. Home-style breakfasts, perfectly grilled Angus steaks, piled high sandwiches, expertly mixed cocktails, local craft beers, and much, much more. This year, give Montana made. Buy in-store or at montanaclub.com. Give $100 in gift cards and get a $10 gift card free. It's easy. Happy holidays from everyone at your Montana Club.
Thank you, America's best-selling off-road brand. During the Polaris Great American Race to event $3 go as high as $500. Live life wide open. High-performance race. Tackle everything. Mountains to fun. Legendary sports and HTV. Get more done with a hard-working transfer or elevate your adventure with the personal Polaris Gen. Now is the time to get the best deals on America's best-selling off-road lineup with financing as low as 0.99% APR for 36 months and save up to $500 during the Polaris Great American Day. At Polaris, 2904 West Broadway, Highway 18. Polaris, Saturday, 77. Saturday. Rebate valid in U.S. 12 subject to approval, often vary by model. Always wear a helmet. Never.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Katie O'Keefe's has been a neighborhood favorite in the corner of the Stevens Center for years. But if you haven't been into Katie's lately, come on in and make sure to turn left. Downstairs bar is completely remodeled with one of the biggest, best spaces anywhere in Missoula to watch games, play games, and hang out with all your friends. Katie O'Keefe's is your horse racing simulcast headquarters in Missoula. Come into Katie's and turn left for cribbage, darts, pool, and much, much more. Katie O'Keefe's, where the cocktails are always cold and the people are always friendly.
If you are hurt or disabled, you may be entitled to benefits from insurance company. I'm Chris Helm, an attorney at Clark Court. Our Missoula firm specializes in worker compensation, personal and social security disability. There are many unknowns when injured or disabled. The other side is fighting hard. You should too. Call Clark Court Law 728-0168 or visit clarkcourt.com. Again, 728.
Good evening, Ryan Tootell, Colton Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. Former Montana head coach Bob Stitt is out at Texas State after one season as the offensive coordinator for the Bobcats. Stitt, who went 21-14 in 3 seasons as the head coach of the Grizz between 2015 and 17, called plays for an offense that finished 121st in the FBS in scoring at Texas State. The Bobcats, in their first season under Jake Spavital, finished 3-9.
Jim McElwain, a Missoula native and a former Eastern Washington quarterback, has been named the Mid-American Conference Coach of the Year. The Missoula Sentinel alum engineered one of the biggest turnarounds in college football at Central Michigan. CMU posted an 8-4 record this season and will play Miami of Ohio on Saturday at Ford Field in Detroit. The Chippewas went from winning just one game a year ago to their first outright MAC title since 2009 and the first championship game appearance since that year.
Missoula Hellgate Jr. Sage Brooks and Helena High sophomore Kylie Hartnett will run in the Nike Cross Country Nationals in Portland, Oregon, Saturday. Brooks finished 5th at the Montana Class AA State Championship earlier this from Dahlberg at 7 p.m. Welcome back. Tootell Nuanez. Running in Montana State and all the people they have to do it. Where does Troy Anderson fit? It's Tootell Nuanez. We're broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula. Highway 83 in Sealy. This Saturday, December 7th, their 7th annual snow day in Missoula. The biggest sale of the entire year. One day only at Kurtz Polaris. That's Saturday. Get over there. If you missed anything in the first hour of the show, well, go check it out. It was a great hour. We had a lot of fun, and you can check it out on the podcast. Podcast available wherever you get your podcast. It is there thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. If you want to call, 329-1899 is the phone number. Put that number in your back pocket because we're going to give away some Alpine Touch here. Love the Alpine Touch. 329-1899. All guests join us via the Rankish Brothers RV phone line. If you want to listen live on your computer, device, tablet, etc., go to the website, 1029ESPN.com. You can listen live there on the stream. It's available thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. As we head into hour number 2, I want to remind you here in about 20 minutes or so, Joe Moglia going to join us. He was the head coach of Coastal Carolina. He just stepped down, actually, from that position. He is now, the czar of football at Coastal Carolina. He's the football program answers to him, even though he is not the head coach. So he's still very much involved there. He's also the chairman of the board of TD Ameritrade. So there's that little side gig that he has going on as well. So we will talk to him. He, if you remember, Grizz fans who've been around for a little while anyway, may recall in 2013, the Chanticleers of Coastal Carolina came to Missoula and won, by some measures, the coldest college football game ever played. It was 8 below on the dial that day in a playoff game, and obviously Coastal Carolina, if you're wondering, warm. South Carolina specifically, right outside of Conway. I don't know if it's 20 minutes out of Myrtle Beach. How about that? Does that help people in terms of trying to locate where Coastal Carolina is? But Not a lot of snow, and certainly not a lot of -8 and -20 on the wind chill and all that. So, fun guy to talk to. So we'll have him on here in just a moment. But Coulter, we wanted to continue a little bit with our Montana State conversation. We heard from Isaiah Fonse in the last segment. We haven't really talked a ton about this game today, and we talked yesterday about Albany is better than you think that they are. I mean, look, any playoff team is going to be a good football team, okay, but within the caste system that is the 24-team tournament, Albany is a good football team, and they, we got to talk to their quarterback, Undercuffler, yesterday, and a guy that I was I was really drawn to him, and kind of obviously his numbers are outstanding, but just sort of his disposition as a freshman at that position to be a leader, but also know who you are a little bit and go in and do what he's done has been very impressive. And I think they're going to be able to move the ball and score some points in the game on Saturday. But you and I both agree that the type of defense, not that there's a lot of really good players. Like you said, was it a
92 tackles for loss?
92 TFLs for this team. That's amazing. TFLs demonstrate a certain aggressiveness that you play out with defensively, but also a certain style. And this is a team that has given up Albany, the Great Danes, some yards in the run game in order to get some tackles for loss in the pass game, or in maybe some of the East-West run game and all that. And they do a lot of stunting, a lot of twisting, a lot of, as you say, post-snap motion on the defensive side. And teams that have done that, including Montana State, have paid the price on the ground. And Montana State, who's already the best rushing team in the Big Sky Conference, has really been able to move the ball at will against teams that do that. And that is something that, until you show that it can be stopped, you go, yeah, I'm going to ride with the Montana State run game when I look at this matchup on paper, especially with the return of Isaiah Fonse. But that goes into this question, Coulter. Troy Anderson, we don't know what his status is for Saturday, whether he's going to be there, whether he's not going to be. I am not going to be the dope who comes on here and says, is Montana State better off without Troy Anderson, or are they not? That is dumb, okay? Anyone thinking that is dumb. Well, let me say that differently. Anyone thinking that is a dumb thought. You are not. But nobody's thinking that. Everybody understands Montana State's better with Troy Anderson on the field. Montana State is better when he is available. But also, they can maximize how good they can be based on the way that they use him. And when they had to come out and didn't have him available and just had to line up and run it, it sort of put them in a mode of break the door down invincibility. And I think that to do that and just use Troy Anderson in that capacity as well. I mean, imagine if you have the 1-2 of 20 runs from Isaiah Fonse and 10 from Troy Anderson, not as the quarterback, but as a running back. I mean, I don't know why there hasn't been more of that. But also, I'm interested to see, if he isn't there, how much of a repeat we might be in store for on Saturday in Bozeman, of a team that just is going to go, hey Mitch, hey Lewis, let's go. Hey Isaiah, welcome back. Here's the ball. Off you go, and let's see what happens. And I think it's going to look, even if you're playing that sort of defense, it's a hard load to stop. It's a big task. And if you're used to having a 230-pound, defensive end coming off the edge with great speed, getting to the quarterback, not much to do if he's not holding the football. So that is my concern if I'm looking at this through the Albany lens. And I'm also interested to know just what you think, first of all, Troy Anderson's availability will be or won't be, and also how do you think would be best to use him if he is there for Montana State?
Well, first of all, in almost every element of life, you have to do what you do best well and to the best of your ability, and getting spread too thin is going to hinder your ability no matter how talented you are, no matter what you do. One of the most basic business practices that there is. You can't do everything until you do certain things at an elite level. When we first launched Skyline Sports, we had just been covering Montana State. We decided to cover the whole entire Big Sky. We still do that, but we cover Montana and Montana State first, foremost, and best. Without and if the other stuff falls by the wayside, that's fine because we can present what we think is an elite product to the consumer without spreading yourself too thin and catering to
diluting
fan bases that just they don't. I mean, we have hundreds and hundreds of people that want this content and one from Southern Utah. You know what I mean? Like, it's very similar to, can Troy Anderson go both ways? Can he play quarterback and running back and tight end and linebacker in a single Division I football game? He can. He can. And he's so talented that he can do it all at a level that's higher than most people can do it. But he can't do it at his highest level. Troy Anderson would be best suited, in my opinion, to do one thing at an absolutely elite level, regardless of if that's play quarterback or running back or linebacker. If he was just one of those things, and again, I'm not criticizing Montana State for what they've done with Troy Anderson, because we have a kid that's as special as him, and the whole what if in this situation is, what if he would have been healthy? What if he would have been healthy? They probably would have played him 65 snaps a game on defense, and then got him his touches here and there. They had to mitigate so much of his reps because he was just never healthy the whole year.
See, I'm gonna disagree with you in part of what you're saying. I think centrally what you're saying, I agree with completely. But I think that he is the type of guy who can play elite level to his, again, okay, would he only be 95% of his best self defensively if he also took snaps at running back? Maybe. So I can get there with that, but that's okay. Like, if I'm a coach, I say, yes, play linebacker, get your defensive keys. Maybe it's situational, and they've played him a lot of situational stuff, right? Yeah. I mean, you don't need to go in and learn the entire defensive plan. You need to understand, hey, when it's third in a certain distance, when it's second in a certain distance, you're going to go in, and this is what we're looking for. And then as a running back, I mean, again, it's not so complex that you don't know what to do. And again, a lot of it is just feeling what he is. And I want to say, too, at the beginning of this season, I said multiple times on the record, I thought that Jeff Choate owed it to Troy Anderson just for perhaps his professional future, but also his life in general, to not just run him into the ground. And when I say that, I mean that just in general, playing football, not merely as a running back. But it would be so easy to play this kid 80 snaps a game if he's healthy and good to go, and you are going to ruin anybody that you put out there that amount. And I think, obviously he's been injured. Obviously he has had health issues this entire season, offseason, the whole thing. But I admire the job that Jeff Choate and that staff did in trying to use him in spots as best they could, understanding his health, and limitations as a result of injury and so forth, and not continue to deteriorate that thing until it just couldn't go. And by the way, that did ultimately happen, but I don't think it was a result of overuse or of not being cautious of him or of not trying to take care of a kid as best as you can. It resulted in, this is what the game of football is, and this is the type of player that Troy Anderson is. So I don't think it was an overuse thing to me, and I think that that's good, and I think that that is, something that should be acknowledged about Jeff Choate and that staff and what they did and did well, as far as I'm concerned. But I think he can play 30 snaps defensively and play 25 snaps offensively, of which he touches the ball on half of them. I don't understand. If Troy Anderson's on the field offensively, he's getting the ball 93% of the time. I think that's crazy.
I think that's why he's got so worn out. I mean, the two games where he got the most hurt were against Western Illinois and UC Davis.
Right. But the defense knows where's 15 every single time. Put him out there, let him chase him around, and send somebody else out.
Totally.
And they did that a little bit, but I think they could do it regular.
I agree. I mean, after watching what I watched this year and talking to the NFL scouts that we sit by in Missoula and having their feedback, I mean, I just think that there's a misconception on Troy Anderson. I think Troy Anderson's an offensive player at the next level. I do not think he's a defensive player. I think he could probably figure it out, maybe, but figuring it out is not really how it goes in the NFL. I just don't think he's going to have enough banked reps to be an elite operator as a linebacker. He has the athleticism to do it, certainly, and the size to do it, certainly. But the instinct to have the ball in your hands, the point guard. Troy Anderson's a scorer. That's what he is. He's a scorer. No matter what sport you're playing, he's going to score. He's going to win. He's winning the race, whether it's to the basket or to the finish line or to the goal line. Troy Anderson needs the ball in his hand. That's what I think. But that's here nor there. What I'm getting at with this whole analysis, though, is this. I think that there's a certain element of Montana State. You can never say that a team is better off without their best player.
No.
You can't. But they spread him so thin this year that when he was in the game, it was almost an automatic requirement for him to make a splash play. There was no Troy Anderson's lining up in the slot and doing nothing. Just running a little fake route on a stick and you're running inside zone on the other side of the field. There's none of that. None. When he's in on offense, he's getting the ball. When you're coaching and managing the game, you're thinking, when's the next time Troy's going to go in? When's the next time we're going to give Troy Anderson the ball? What's Troy going to do when he gets the ball? And you're thinking about it. You're thinking about it. The distractions are the wrong word, but the necessity to give Troy Anderson the ball all the time or figure out how you're going to get him his 10 touches while also trying to figure out how to manage his health and mitigate his reps while also trying to figure out what's the best positions to put him in to play, what packages do we want him to play in on defense. It's very complicated, and they did a great job of it this year. He's a first-team All-League player by playing not really – he played almost full-time on defense, but not really, and he was first-team All-League. And so that's a testament to the kid and the coaches, certainly. But I think that when he's not in, you don't have to spin yourself crazy thinking about what are all the things we could and should do with Troy Anderson. You can just say, well, let's just run inside zone with Isaiah and Fonse, and then run counter with Logan Jones, and then run jet sweep with Travis Johnson. Let's just do it.
Hey, and look, man, in a game, we've seen multiple games this year. They don't need Troy in. Right. I mean, they got great players aside from Troy Anderson.
That's the other thing. That's the other thing that's so sad about him being hurt is that Daniel Hardy, who's his primary backup at Sam linebacker, is a very good player who has a lot of upside. I mean, he has not been overmatched when he's been in the game this year. Mm-hmm. He's been just fine. And he's not like he's some upstart guy. I mean, he's a 6'3", 230-pound kid that they brought in from the junior college ranks who's a great athlete. I mean, watch their hype video. The guy who's doing the backflips, the standing backflips, that's Daniel Hardy. I mean, he's a freak athlete.
I've done a backflip, but it was an accident.
And the other thing is, I think Montana State's best defensive package is when they play their big nickel. They play their big nickel and they just exclusively play it because it gives them a chance to have JoJo Henderson and Jacquay Allen both play at safety while also having Braden Conkle still on the field. And Conkle's such a versatile guy that he can play this Sam/Rover spot, and there's not a mismatch when he's guarding the slot. There's also not a mismatch when he's in the box. There's not a mismatch when running backs cut back at him. It gives you so much more diversity. And I'm not saying Troy doesn't have that, but they just don't necessarily need it. As they want it, but don't need it, if that makes sense.
Right.
And on the other side of the ball, again, getting the dude who is a touchdown in a bottle on the field is a good thing. But you also have Isaiah Fonse. You also have Logan Jones. You also have Travis Johnson. You have all these weapons. So, to me, I don't know what Troy Anderson's status is. I highly doubt he plays this week. Mm-hmm. If there's a chance for him to come back at all this season, I think they need to not play him this weekend because if they do get through Albany, they're going to desperately need him at Sac State if he can play, assuming Sac State wins that.
Right. Here's Tootell Nuanez 102.9 ESPN Radio. By the way, Joe Mowgli coming up here in just about 5 minutes, former head coach of Coastal Carolina and the head coach at the time that the Chanticleers came to Missoula in one of, if not the coldest game in college football history. But what you said is exactly what I don't understand. And look, again, I'm always going to defer to football coaches who do this profession. But you want to preserve the guy, but like you said, you want to get him his 10 touches, of course, when he's in. But why? So play him at quarterback, and guess what? Let him turn and hand the football. Or send him on a fly sweep and don't give him the football. Like, I understand you want to have guys on the field that are going to block for the guys that are actually going to get the ball, but deception is a major part of football, and Certainly. Who could be a bigger deceiver to a defense than the guy that everybody is keyed on? And do you need a guy to get a block or a guy to get 2 sets of eyeballs looking the wrong direction, which is just as good, if not better. Now, that's not going to happen if he literally never touches the ball, of course.
Totally.
But
there was also an element of deception in the middle part of the year before he really re-injured that shoulder. It's so hard to remember every play in a football game, and if there's not a stat attached to it, it's almost impossible. There was a game in the middle of the season. I believe it was it was a home game. I for sure remember because I remember taking notes, but it's even foggy in my mind as somebody that does this and writes down every single play. I can't remember if it was against Sacramento State, where Troy Anderson took 25 snaps. And he did not have 25 throws or 25 runs.
He did hand the ball off. They have done it. They have used him in roles of deception. I'm not saying it's never happened. But what I am saying is, by and large, again, I said 93%. It's an estimate. Maybe it's 88%. But an overwhelmingly large number of times when he's in the game on offense, he is getting the ball, and it's for him to do what he does.
One more point that's worth mentioning. This is one thing that I just love about Coach Choate, is that he teaches you so much about football if you really just listen to him. And I think that there's all sorts of just broad assumptions that are made all across the board. Like we talked earlier in the first hour about how I think it's just assumed because everybody says they take it week to week that everybody does prepare on the same level week to week, and that's just not true. The best programs do prepare way more consistently and at a way more consistently high level than other programs in the country. That's why they're better. It's a tried and true formula. The assumption is incorrect. I also think there's an assumption that the communication in the scope of a football game, the ability to make adjustments, the ability for coaches to communicate, especially when half of them are in the box and half of them are on the sidelines, is fluid and flawless. It's not. We watched multiple games in Missoula this year where the replay didn't work. It straight up didn't work. The officials could not go to the replay booth because it did not work. Well, after the North Dakota game, which was a disaster for Montana State's offense, they looked horrendous. I mean, they had 245 yards rushing, but more than half of those came on 4 plays that were gash plays. The rest of it, they looked
and it was truly the only actually bad game that Montana State had.
Totally, yes. and they would even admit that, too. I mean, like Choate said, it was our October to forget, capped by that game. But they made a very subtle and very unpublicized adjustment. They put Matt Miller on the field. And Matt Miller and Brian Armstrong, the offensive line coach, who's also the run game coordinator, are now both on the field together. And they left Nate Potter, the tight ends coach, and Denarius McGee, the running backs coach, who used to be the quarterbacks coach, who was an all-time great quarterback at Montana State, up in the box. And they used to have Denarius on the sidelines because Denarius is such a fiery, rah-rah guy. But then they figured out, okay, in terms of the way we need to rotate our players, we know who our running backs are. It's going to be Logan Jones and Isaiah Fonse when they're healthy, and then we're going to have some Lane Sumner in there. It's not where you're playing 6 or 7 receivers. It's not all this other crazy rotation.
Right.
And because of that, then, I mean, Choate talked about it earlier this week. Sometimes it's really hard to communicate on the headsets. I mean, Lewis Kidd talked about before there was some question, what's the call? What's the call? When you're trying to get it in the heat of battle and you're trying to play at tempo, confusion and misalignment and not being on the same page is one of the worst things that can happen to you. Since they moved Matt Miller to the field, they've been outstanding on offense. I think that's because between snaps, Matt Miller and Brian Armstrong can collaborate. What are you seeing? And they have 2 guys that are really good at adjusting on the fly. And that's what's given them such a great advantage in the run game. I think that's going to give them another advantage on Saturday.
Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We put a bow for today on Montana State. We come back, we talk about Coastal Carolina, of all teams. A memory that many Grizz fans would care not to have, and yet a certain analogy with a warm weather team coming to play a December game in Missoula in the playoffs with Southeastern Louisiana. Coming in this week, Joe Moglia going to join us, former head coach of the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers and the chairman of the board of TD Ameritrade, if keeping track at home. Going to join us right after this. December is winter prep month. The road salts and sands wreak havoc on the paint and finish of your ride. Protect your car or truck from the harsh winter elements by having a premium exterior detail from Shine Auto Detailing. That's right, Shine Auto Detailing. That includes a ceramic coating final finish. So when spring comes around, simply drive your car or truck through the car wash, and it looks like it's been freshly waxed. If you care about your ride, protect it all winter. And you can also save $50 if you call to schedule. Just schedule an appointment at Shine Auto Detailing and get $50 off ShineAutoDetailing.net, or if you just search Auto Detailing in Missoula, pick the one with over 100 5-star reviews. Shine Auto Detailing. Protect your car.
If you're looking for the perfect Christmas gift, think spicy. 'Tis the season for seasoning with gift packs from Alpine Touch. The 4-spice pack includes 4 Big Mountain flavors for just $19.99. Go to alpinetouch.com right now for gifts sure to keep mouths watering year-round. And if you plug in the code ESPN at checkout, you'll get a free bag of Alpine Touch sunflower seeds. From gift packs to gift cards to the Grand Slam package, Alpine Touch makes the perfect gift for anyone on your list. Go to alpinetouch.com right now to order. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters. And you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box store. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit 6, and online at SelwayArmory.com.
Sometimes it's stressful juggling all your responsibilities on the weekends. You know you need to do your chores. You know you want to spend time with your family. But really, you just want to watch football all day. Paradise Falls is the perfect option for a family-friendly place to hang out and still have a chance to catch all the games. Open 7 a.m. till midnight and offering breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Paradise Falls has 30 big-screen TVs, ESPN 3 capabilities, and much, much more. Swing on by Paradise Falls on Brook Street anytime you're in the mood for some food or some football. Paradise Falls, 3621 Brook Street, Missoula's coolest hotspot.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, ooh, pump it up.
Get energized at your local Town Pump. Monster or Reign energy drinks, 2 for $4. And 12 packs of Coke products are only $4.99. Town Pump has everything you need to get you through the day. They're right down the road.
Right down the road, pump it up. Oh, yeah.
There's a saying, opportunity never knocks twice. When you're ready to take advantage of your next opportunity, look to your local bank. Opportunity Bank of Montana. Opportunity Bank offers options for mortgage loans, small business loans, equipment financing, agriculture, and more. Our experienced team can provide solutions to help you welcome your next big opportunity. There's nothing like the feeling of progress. So let's get started today. Come see us at your local Opportunity Bank of Montana. OpportunityBank.com, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
The music and comedy community are teaming up this holiday season for an ambitious project. Train everyone in Missoula's entertainment workforce to prevent sexual harassment and assault. Developing and running these workshops and creating a safe, healthier Missoula requires money, so they're throwing a huge holiday party fundraiser. Join friends at the Badlander December 10th for the Out of the Office holiday party. Suggested donation of $10 or a night of live music and a white elephant.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good evening. Ryan Tootell, Colton Nuanez. Here's some sports news for you. Former Montana head football coach Bob Stitt is out at Texas State after one season as the offensive coordinator for the Bobcats. Stitt, who went 21-14 in 3 seasons as the head coach of the Grizz between 2015 and 2017, called plays for an offense that finished 121st in the FBS in scoring at Texas State. The Bobcats, in their first season under Jake Spavital, finished overall 3-9.
Jim McElwain, who's a Missoula native and former Eastern Washington quarterback, has been named the Mid-American Conference Coach of the Year. Missoula Sentinel alum engineered one of the biggest turnarounds in college football at Central Michigan. CMU posted an 8-4 record this year and will play Miami of Ohio on Saturday at Ford Field in the MAC championship game. The Chippewas went from winning just one game a year ago to their first outright MAC West title since 2009 and their first league championship game since that same year.
Let's hear it for the MAC, baby. Let's go. Missoula Hellgate Jr., Sage Brooks, and Helena High sophomore Kylie Hartnett will run in the Nike Cross Country Nationals in Portland, Oregon, Saturday. Brooks finished 5th at the Montana Class AA Cross Country State Championship earlier this season, while Hartnett won the individual state championship.
And finally, the University of Montana men's basketball team returns Friday with a non-conference matchup against North Dakota. UND left the Big Sky 2 years ago.
Street and football. I mean, what could be more American? It's Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. And if you go there this Saturday to the Missoula store, it's their 7th annual snow day, 1 day only. It's the 7th annual snow day at Kurtz Polaris, biggest sale of the entire year. Get there. You get a free lunch out of the whole thing and knock off all your Christmas list as well.
We go down to the Rankin Brothers RV phone line. We welcome in the now former head coach of the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, Joe Mogley. He's also the chairman of the board of TD Ameritrade, former CEO of the firm trading in Wall Street. Joe, thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it. How are you?
Guys, I'm good. I'll tell you how excited I am to be on. That was an incredible memory for 5 years.
Yeah, well, we wanted to visit that with you as Montana welcoming in southeastern Louisiana this Saturday. A warm weather team, obviously coming from the Bayou to play the Grizzlies. But it's not going to be nearly as cold as it was the day that your Coastal Carolina team visited Missoula. So we wanted to talk to you about that. What do you remember about that day and preparing for that and looking at, knowing that you were going to be coming to one of the coldest spots in America that day?
Well, I mean, frankly, the number one thing I remember is that we were freezing our ass off. Number two, it turns out to be the coldest game in history of college football. The actual temperature was -7, the wind chill was -26, and most of the time it was -26. And as we started, both months, I think Montana was ranked 4th, we were ranked 7th at the time, and so we had a pretty good season. But we are in South Carolina, in a little area. I've got 15 guys on the team that don't even have coats. I've got a number of guys that actually have never been in the snow, and we've been practicing in 70 degree weather. So there was a little bit of a sense coming over us as we were getting ready for the season. We had a great season, but we're not going to be able to do that type of service. We're not going to be able to acclimate. So that was a little bit of a game.
You are preparing to come across the country, a foreign place, but then all of a sudden look at the weather, and it's not just going to be different, but it's going to be to the maximum extreme. How does that influence the way that you try to prepare your team?
Well, I think one of the things that was a plus, we knew in the beginning of the week it was going to be that cold. There were rumors that the NCAA was going to postpone the game. It was that cold. But let's understand how we prepared for the game, guys. You need to understand our leadership philosophy. There are a couple of things that Coastal Carolina does that no one else does. The first is you don't have literally no not a communication. I say that was that certainly was true of us. And but we have a standard. That standard is touches pretty much anything that's part of one's life or playing career or professional career. And that you stand on your own feet, take responsibility for yourself, you always does what you live with the draft. Period. That's it. All we've got. Now, all that band, that's some tough macho. A real man does take a real man, a real leader, a real woman doesn't take they all have to going to live constant distraction. So when I sense that we're already kind of, we'll go up there, we'll do our best. So realistic, we're not going to have much of a chance of it. First of all, my hand's really pretty good, but those elements are too much. Well, reality is once you start to say that the weather is going to be the reason why it may not work out, then you subconsciously let yourself off the hook. BAM doesn't allow you to. So that Sunday, we sitting around our meeting room, and I sensed this from the staff, and I asked, well, what's the matter? And then we started to get into the issue of weather. I said, well, we're going to be playing 13 games, so let's not worry about games per se. Let's figure out how we're going to handle the weather. What we actually did was out the contacts with folks that had done research in parks. How do we handle it? What do we do? It's going to be an incredibly difficult position for 3 hours. How are we going to back out? And every day that week, we spent 30 minutes practicing working on the pole. And spent every day talking about that. Last year, actually, what we did, the 2 or 3 things that we did that really made incredible difference.
What were those things? What did you do that got you over the hump that way?
All right, so now there are rumors. Well, there was nothing that was so literally our president didn't have a big crowd going to that. The president that was there, we went out to Missoula the night before, and they bought every thermos that Missoula had, and we made hot chicken soup, and everybody had a thermos. In that term, too. So at least we're able to hydrate with something that wasn't frozen. Now, that's one little, did many things. But the biggest thing we did, guys, was we went out and we rented for people. They're like little dead ends. Didn't let the team sit on the entire bench with one bench, and it sat maybe 12 people. And so the first thing usually a player does, so you guys know, take the helmet off. Well, we practice all week. You don't take the helmet off the field until you get to the bench. So the guys that are getting off the bench, they give the pocket to the guys sit down. Once you sit down, I'm allowed to friend, take your helmet off and put it in the seat. Now, remember, at the end of the bench, we've got torpedoes above their heads. They have like radios. So by the time you actually get ready to go back in the game, your feet were warm, your helmet and the radiator would keep your head and your shoulders and neck warm. So we go back into the game, and we're actually warm. So we got to let for 5 minutes. That was probably the single most thing that we did that really happened. Now, there's another important thought about this that I'm happy to share if you like. So I'm very proud to be part of the coaching, but because of my background, things that are very, very different. Example for no stand. All right, so how do most coaches? I don't know how civilly, but how do most coaches do that? No, they say we got to do a better job. We got to do that, but most coaches, something along the line. You know what? This is mental. This is, don't worry about the cold. Don't worry about. We're going to make you hydrated. We're going to make sure with this. We're going to make that little coolers on the sideline when it's hot out. But you got to be tough. You got to be man enough. This can handle the cold. Well, I have no doubt. By the way, I checked December. Checked back then. You guys have temperature average 20. You've never like this. Nobody's ever. So remember the paper article. They were calling guys Cowboys boys. Every article, the Cowboys, Grizzlies, who live there, who live in the mountains. So part of it, got 4 guys from pretty good football team. They're never going to be out. Again, we got guys that have never go before or practice that weather. So most coaches have that attitude. You find over that. I have no doubt that with regards to Montana, that was fun. These guys are not even going to be able to play with them. They're not going to be able to handle the cold. You can't because we're tough. Nobody is. So we're there. We're all plugged up. Going on. Those guys are well prepared to see. Here comes Montana out. Guys are tall. They're short.
Yep.
Once they came out in the field, it's short speed. And I had no doubt that's what was being said to them by the coaching staff. They're so tough. They can go out short street and look it up. Got pictures all over the place. I suit with dressed up. You can't even put your coaches on the sideline because they have so much clothes on. Well, with that attitude, it's got nothing to do with stuff. It's got everything to do with being smart, take the responsibility for yourself. The issue that day was less the opponent and far more how do you keep yourself reasonably warm with regard to hell life as far as the other. That's the way we approach it.
Joe Moglia joining us, the former head coach of Carolina, and also chairman of the board, the merit trade. And Coach, I know you were mentioning this is something that you obviously remember it vividly, but you were also returned to that game and that experience in some of the things you do, some of the talks that you gave one recently at the University of Miami, I understand, that involved that very thing. Is that right?
Yeah, that's actually right. I gave a leadership talk Monday, and it was very, very well received. So when I talk about leadership, I give them that standing on 2 feet, great leadership, take responsibility for yourself, use everything you expect, sounds project. I explain I've done that in my personal life. I think yours that way, but I did that was the standard for my executive team, the men and women in the business world, and that's the philosophy upon which we built the football program in Coast Carolina. But at Coast Carolina, I got 125 guys. Then I got another 25 interns, analysts, coaches, etc. I got 150 males. That became Be a Man. Be a Man is not a macho. It's a real man on their own feet, etc. So for that fan, fans on our church, in the stadium, and it's on the way to it's in the locker room, it's on the way to practice, etc. So there are no, but take it. So for example, coaches and players. That was a horrible call by. Well, once you say it's a horrible call by, let yourself off the hook because you didn't coach the guy well enough. It's not going to hold or whatever. Or the player wasn't disciplined enough. So you let the responsibility off on yourself. It happens again and again and again. Well, in this case, it was the weather. So when I talk about this, the best positive example I have, my personal life, my professional life, and my coaching, that game on my side. Because those types of things have never before haven't fit. And they became a subconscious excuse. And then I tell the entire story about the whole process of how we got ready for the game and anxiety in the beginning, so we were going to allow the weather to be the reason why, we lost the game. But we could live with it. How could we possibly cope with the weather? So I used the Montana story. I used the Montana story and what we went through as one of my finest examples of leadership where you take responsibility for yourself and you don't allow yourself. Guys, they're moving. Power 13. Those guys were never going to get back. You know what? Harris never gave up. Didn't figure. The African American lady was the national. So the odds they were. Guess what? They never gave up. They figured it out. The odds that we were going from 72 guys that have never seen snow to 20 in Montana against a very, very good football team. And what we conquered those odds, and that is something that I do. Many guys, many of my thoughts. So Montana, frankly, comes up again and again and again.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. Well, Joe, we'll get you out of here on this. I have covered the Big Sky Conference now for 13 years. I didn't know about Coastal Carolina until you became the head coach in 2012, and then that 2013 year, sort of a breakthrough year for you guys, winning a couple playoff games. But since then, Coastal Carolina has just been on this upward ascension. You guys have gone all the way from not even having a football program back in 2002 to now being in the FBS. So how much do you think that specific playoff run, the trip to Missoula included, spurred your guys' ability to then make the jump? And what does it take to make the jump as rapidly as you guys did from the FCS to the FBS?
I think a lot of times, guys, when a team wants to go to the FCS, they apply for now. Because of the success we had in football, we were approached about joining them. So we were actually glad we started that. But the Montana game, to me, reinforced the leadership principle of bank. Right? You take responsibility. No, not sometimes allowed to get in the way. And I can't think of a better example than that. So that's the mention for the program. It's just a solid foundation. But that's the mention of that foundation. That really makes that stronger. And we continue to build from there. So in terms of yes, I mean, there are some great programs. Yes, really, really well coached, as well as any program. Yes, but yes, takes my house. So in that transition, you're not able to get there right away. Somebody doesn't get any breaks. It takes you a little while. So that the first really full year there, we only up to playing everybody's got 85. We probably had about 75. We're going to be pretty close next year. We will be above 80. But what happens then over time? I'm coaching staff, and what we do is that at any program, we want to be successful. doubt about it. But what does happen, you do have players that would love to come to they're only going to go to the FCS. Well, we get them now. Now we got players that are only going to play Power 5. Okay, so but you're getting players. So what happens is, over time, you have to get substitute yes. So last year we had a great result. This year's better. I hope the one we're going to have going forward, everything is good. So younger kids coming in, and we're very young teams, younger kids coming in, facing great kids, FBS, and that's basically where we wind up legitimately competing. And we will do a good job, achieving that. We'll certainly be able to.
And Joe, just quickly, I mean, you just stepped down at the beginning of this year as the head coach there, and as we mentioned, you're still the chairman of the board for the Ameritrade. But what are you doing now in the role with the university, or what else are you trying to get into now that you are done with the head coaching specifically?
The university, if I would stay on, my title don't run athletics. The athletics, but I'm responsible for football. So football. I'm responsible for it. The other title of the game is executive advisor to the president. Because of my background, a president has to run a board. Well, I already, and the experience I've had in business and the experience I've had in education, I've written a couple books. The experience that I've had in education, and certainly my experience in coaching, frankly, I'm pretty reasonably qualified to play that. So I'm executive advisor to the president. Any discussion that we might have, and football type of sport.
Joe, that's fantastic. Listen, you went through this really, really thoroughly, and even educated the good folks of Montana here today a little bit. So we really appreciate that. We appreciate your time. Thanks so much for sharing with us today.
And I wish you guys all the very best luck. But let's not ever compare Southern Indiana going up playing at 32 degrees. North Carolina did a minus. That's almost 6 degrees differential, guys. Fair enough?
Fair enough. You got it.
Best of luck, guys.
The man knows his numbers. It is almost a 60-degree differential. That is a fact, and will not be anything like that game that day against Coastal Carolina. But nonetheless, I've seen plenty of Bobby Houck tweets with snow in them, skiers coming down Mount Sentinel and so on. So, let people know. It's not going to be 75 and humid. Let's put it like that. Hey, Tootell Nuanez 102.9 ESPN Radio. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll finish this thing up with some picks against the spread. But first, we want to hook you up. Hey, shout out, Alpine Touch. Boys and girls, if I know one thing, it's December. It's grilling season. Get me the charcoal out there. Stand around the fire. Gloves on, hat on, steaks on. And Alpine Touch on all of it. Coulter, tell them about what they're about to get.
Got this Big Mountain Flavors 4-pack right here. You got all-purpose pepper blend, hickory smoked, and chili sublime in this bad day.
Oh, yeah.
But you can pick whatever ones you want. All your favorites are available. It's a nice little grab and go. You can take it anywhere you want. Take it to the tailgates over the weekend, whether you're in Missoula or Bozeman, the FCS playoff games. Take it to your buddy's house. Great for gifts as well. You find this $19.99, alpinetouch.com. Be sure to go there. Use the promo code ESPN10. Get 10% off of your order. But if you give us a call right now, 329-1899, we got one of these for you for free, delivered right to your doorstep.
What a deal.
Alpine Touch. Go hit up alpinetouch.com for all your Christmas needs or your tailgating needs or your year-round deliciousness needs.
Just yourself, yes.
Alpinetouch.com. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
Hi there. It's Les Schwab Tires. Well, more like Les Schwab alignment, brakes, shocks, wheels, and tires. Now, some tire places don't offer that. They only sell tires. And we're not sure how they sleep at night, because all those services affect things like steering and stopping. That's why we offer more tires to help keep you safe. Stop by or book an appointment at LesSchwab.com. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing. 1950.
On Russell, across from the fairground.
It's a rite of passage. That first bank account. Explore the great options for your young adult with a visit to Farmer State Bank, online at farmersebank.com or in person at any of our 9 locations in western Montana. Our checking and savings accounts are designed to fit any lifestyle and budget with the flexibility, innovations, and security today's consumers demand. Start out right with Farmer State Bank or Montana Bank since 1907. FDIC.
Have you been in an accident and have no idea what to do? I'm here with Catherine from the Advocates Injury Attorneys.
Unfortunately, people are injured in accidents every day, and dealing with the insurance company can add even more pain to an already bad situation. That is where hiring the advocates can help. Let us guide you through the process and take on the hassles for you so you can just focus on.
If you've been injured in an accident, give the Advocates a call, 406-640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. The Advocates are on your side.
The biggest season in sports is shifting into overdrive, and the Desperado Sports Tavern has the fuel you need to make it to the finish line. By now, you've heard that the Despo serves the best wings around, but did you know they have a full menu with burgers, nachos, chicken strips, sandwiches, cheese sticks, and even steaks? Fill your tank, then wash it down with an ice-cold beverage or two. Keep your head in the game with 32 HD TVs and room for the whole crew. The Desperado Sports Tavern on South Russell across from the Y.
Americans waste 3.8 million gallons every single day. Idling for more than 10 seconds uses more fuel, produces more emissions than stopping and restarting. So next time you're stopped for more than 10 seconds at the train, getting coffee, or picking your child up from school, please turn your vehicle off.
Hey there, Missoula. Mark Moss from Tell Us Something, inviting you to join us for an evening of live storytelling at the Wilma, December 10th at 7 p.m. 8 storytellers take the stage to share their true personal stories from memory on the theme Tipping Point. We again welcome American Sign Language interpreters who will sign for our deaf friends in the Missoula community. Get your tickets now at the Top Hat Box Office, Rockin' Rudy's, or LogJamPresents.com. December 10th, 7 p.m. at the Wilma, Tipping Point Story. See you there.
Tootell and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
Don't look now, but NFL Week 14 starts in about 30 minutes. It's Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris Studios. Kurtz Polaris, 2904 West Broadway in Missoula. Go there this Saturday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., and even earlier than that if you want to. If you're going to the game, you need to get in early, they'll probably let you in. That's what I heard. Anyway, it's the 7th annual Snow Day, biggest sale of the entire year, one day only at Kurtz Polaris. Go check it out. If you missed anything in the show today, you got it on the podcast. Podcast available wherever you get your podcast. Just search Tootell and Nuanez. Listen to the podcast there. Podcast available thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. I think this is right, Coulter. Last month, November, I think we did like 10,000 downloads on the Tootell and Nuanez podcast. That's pretty cool. We appreciate that. Everybody listening on the podcast that way. By the way, the new FCS Speculators podcast also out. Okay, week 2 of the FCS playoffs. All 8 matchups accounted for. So go out there and check it out. All right, it's time for our Katie O'Keefe's NFL picks against the spread. Thanks to our friends at Katie O'Keefe's for hooking us up with a little bit of NFL talk. That's what I've been chosen for. They said no. I said yes. Let's do. He said okay. Thanks to Katie. Tonight, Coulter, Dallas is a 3-point favorite on the road at the Chicago Bears. The Bears are capital A, atrocious on offense. They're going to win the football game tonight. The Chicago Bears at home in Soldier Field against the coachless Dallas Cowboys. I don't like this matchup at all. It's going to be ugly. I'll watch it in 4K. I'm into it. I got Chicago not just covering, but winning this game straight up against Dallas tonight.
It's a bad game to bet. I tell you this.
I agree with you.
It's going to go one or two ways. Now that Jerry Jones basically put it in the players' hands in Dallas, they're going to play their best game of the season and win going away, or they're going to completely not show up to play and get whooped. I think that a 3-point spread is completely wrong because I think Dallas will either win this game by 2 scores or lose it by 2 scores. I'm choosing the latter. I got the Bears.
The Baltimore Ravens are a 5.5-point favorite coming off of all this just landmark victories. They're on the road at Buffalo. Coulter, I'm going the other way on this. I'm taking the Buffalo Bills to cover. I think that Baltimore will win this game, but I think this is a low-scoring, close football game, even with the best offense in football in Baltimore. Buffalo has an unbelievable defense. I think they find a way to at least stay with Baltimore a little bit at home. I think it's a big prove-it-to-me game for the Bills. I like the Bills to cover 5.5 points.
Lamar Jackson has led touchdown drives on 1/3 of possessions the Baltimore Ravens have had this year. Insane.
And that includes the Patriots, the Niners, everybody. Yes.
I got the Ravens. I'm sticking with Action Jackson.
I just think at some point you have just one game where it doesn't quite all come together, and Buffalo could contribute to that. Kansas City at New England. This is the last game. The New England Patriots, a 3-point favorite at home against Kansas City. I think New England probably wins this game. They probably bounce back. I do like Kansas City in this spot, though, a little bit. I think I'm taking the Chiefs to cover in a high-scoring close game.
I got the Patriots bouncing back after the embarrassing loss to the Texans.
We will it's Hawks-Rams Sunday night. We'll have that for you on ESPN Radio. We're going to talk extensively about that game tomorrow, so fear not on that. Boys and girls, there you go. Arcadia O'Keefe's picks against the spread. We go. A little country, a little violin on our way out to a Christmas party on a Thursday evening. Boys and girls, have a wonderful Thursday evening out there. Stay safe. Enjoy yourself. We'll catch you tomorrow on a Friday. We'll wrap the week and get ready for some playoff football. Tootell and Nuanez. Good night. When your football team scores, sometimes you want to celebrate with a shot. Other times, your team might be getting whipped. You need a beer. At Katie O'Keefe's, you don't have to choose. Every Monday and Thursday from 6 to 10 p.m., come watch the NFL and enjoy a premium shot and a beer for just $6. That's right, a shot and a beer for $6. Located in the Stevens